In 3, 2, 1. This Week in Blizz is proudly sponsored by DoghouseSystems.com. If you use the code TWIB at checkout, that's TWIB, you will get double memory on your next Doghouse system. We thank DoghouseSystems.com for their support of This Week in Blizz. And also TweakedAudio.com. Go to TweakedAudio.com for high-performance, noise-reducing earbuds. Use our code TWIB to get 30% off plus free shipping on your next order, and support This Week in Blizz in the process.
Armed and ready. Who wants some? This Week in Blizz.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 36 of This Week in Blizz. I'm Garrett Weinzierl.
I'm Kyle Ferguson.
And I'm Ben Seifel.
And this is the show keeping you up to date on the worlds of Blizzard Entertainment. How are you gentlemen doing on this wonderful, sleepy, and if you're in Florida, humid as all hell Monday?
It really is, isn't it? It's kind of crazy. It's like summer thunderstorm weather.
Crazy or disgusting? I feel like I'm living in a hobo's armpit.
Yeah, well.
That's what it is.
Wow, that couldn't be more night and day than the current 29-degree windy Chicago.
I am so...
Well, it was very windy here, but
so jealous.
That's about the only similarity.
Yep. Yeah, it just blows the hobo sweat into your eyes. Like,
Yeah.
that's what's going on there. Don't walk around with
your... by the time they hit me.
Right.
Yeah, so...
Being gently misted in it, right?
Exactly. So, you're living in southern Florida. Don't walk around with your mouth open right now. It's not good. So, yeah, it's good stuff, guys. Everyone have a good weekend. You guys excited for The Hobbit this weekend? This upcoming weekend?
Yeah, I forgot.
Oh, you sound so excited.
I'm totally amped.
Yelling directly into your microphone, setting a good vibe for the rest of the show.
Yeah, a high-energy podcast is what they call this.
Yeah, indeed. So, well, very cool. Well, let's get into it with this week's World of Warcraft. Interviews. So many interviews this week. Let's see, from the likes of Grey Ghostcaller Street, Tom Chilton, Corey Stockton, and David Cossack. They were all recently interviewed by such publications as Arena Junkies, Warcraft Pets, Darkmoon Herald, All Things Azeroth, and Gamebreaker. The following is condensed from all of the above. We're going to talk about some of the finer points from all of the knowledge bombs and like wishes and future projections, and then just I think one of them just cut open a murloc, threw some bones in a bowl, and read what they saw.
Of course.
Yeah, exactly.
So it seems like Blizzard basically threw open their doors because this happened for StarCraft as well.
Did it? I didn't see the StarCraft stuff.
It was pretty isolated. I think only Husky was heading down there this past weekend, but at the same time these interviews were going on, so something must have been up. Maybe they were doing that tour they seem to do randomly throughout the year. Who knows?
I know, and we've never been invited to that tour. I'm sad.
I find it very interesting that, it's this sort of perception of, they're talking to everyone, answering all the questions and stuff, but they're doing it in a hyper-controlled manner at a very specific time and place. And
right.
It's interesting that they're all doing it, like, across the board, their message is very... very streamlined and very organized.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about some of the stuff. More interesting stuff. They said Blizzard may have overdone the daily quests a little bit in pursuit of the goal of always having something for players to do when they log in. And they said if they had to do it again, something like the Golden Lotus unlocking more and more areas would have been changed to just unlock a new area that replaces the old one, keeping the number of quests that you do every day the same.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes is all I have to say to that.
I read this and I almost called you and was like, hey, Ben, we want to have like a party about Warcraft becoming a lot more fun and manageable. But then I decided against it.
That would have been... I don't know why they didn't do this in the beginning. The fact that you were cut off from doing, two of the main factions,
August
from having
Celestials.
anything to do with them, right, for a huge amount of the like beginning of the game is kind of weird. And then like even if you do want to grind to Exalted with Golden Lotus, you have to now do 3 separate sets of dailies to try and keep up. Like for instance, my August Celestials and my Shadowpan are nowhere near what they should be because of this very reason.
Yeah, exactly. I had the same issue. I would go do, because I got into this jive of, okay, it's a new day in Warcraft. I'm gonna go do my Golden Lotus dailies, and it would just start piling up. You unlock one area, then you unlock the next, and you unlock the next. Suddenly, you're doing like 4 areas worth of dailies, and by the time you actually unlock Shadowpan, I've already done my Golden Lotus for days, and I'm just like, you know what? I don't feel like going and doing the Shadowpan.
And they're hard.
Yeah,
like the Shadowpan ones are really hard.
Yeah, they're balls hard.
They're not fun.
Yeah, exactly. So, and obviously,
actually, I think the August Celestial ones are pretty elegant because it's only about 4 or 5 quests, and it's they're all pretty easy. You know, like I did one today where I had to run around and collect snacks for a giant yak, which is pretty straightforward and kind of funny. And it isn't a huge investment to do.
Ben, I think you just converted all of the StarCraft players that listen to this show. Wait, I have sworn off Warcraft my entire life. You mean to tell me that I can get into this game, I can collect snacks for a yak? Sold.
Yeah.
Totally sold.
This ain't just any yak. This is a giant spirit beast.
Okay, a giant spirit beast.
Even better. I mean, then it not only massages your hand with its lips, but your spirit as well. And I'm sure there's some nice whiskers on there.
All right, fair enough.
But my point I was trying to make is that clearly this is a very different game from something like StarCraft. It's a relatively large parts of it are a relatively low investment of yourself, if that makes sense. Like something like dailies is usually it's not challenging. It's more
the yak I'm trying
soothing. I don't know.
The yak I'm trying to feed isn't going to just raffle stomp me into the ground by trying to feed it and then ridicule me for failing so hard at the feeding process.
Sure.
Right,
I mean,
it's
I've
not
always felt that Blizzard should get a certain cut of Adult Swim's programming because that's what's left on in the background.
Yes.
Yes.
It's a very good point. There's actually not a lot of the game that involves this really sort of scalpel-like focus that you have to have for every single StarCraft 2 game you ever play. Which it makes it a very different, very appealing thing. So It's not quite, But that's what these things are intended to be. They're sort of long-term, character progression more than anything. But this first point is absolutely right. You know what I mean? It should have been one area that leads into the next. They should have replaced the Golden Lotus dailies. Nobody is doing such a tremendous, massive amount of dailies. Nobody's doing all the dailies in the in the game, which I've done for this tier. Like I've done it a few days. I've done every daily that's been available to me, and then I've gone, you know what? I wish there was more dailies. Nobody's saying that.
Did you? So, how are you still around? Because that would have just drove me to the brink of madness.
It was one of those things. Like I leveled my DK recently, and I was trying to, because I'm exchanging him for my priest in our raid and blah blah blah. But I was trying to get a belt before the raid started, essentially, and I just ground through this huge amount of dailies to get to the valor points that I needed. Yeah. Otherwise, I would never have done it.
Gotcha. And to the podcast audience listening, and I guess to the live audience as well, if that sound you're hearing in the background of Ben, I believe, is a storm. It's storming here in Florida, and there's not a whole lot we can do about that.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Ben's by a big glass window, and you're just going to have to deal, unfortunately. The forces of nature are combating our usual stellar audio production, as I'm sure everyone is.
Is it that loud?
When you were talking before, it started getting really loud. I don't know if the wind kicked up, but now it's kind of back to a normal dull hum. Huh. But nonetheless, doesn't matter. I just wanted to put that little disclaimer in. On to the next point. Another thing that was mentioned, they said one alternative being considered for reputation leveling is bonus reputation from your first scenario of the day, which I'm also all for.
Hell yeah.
Putting more reasons for me to go run a scenario and thus more other people to run scenarios is great. I'm down for that.
they've done a big thing to incentivize scenarios in 5.1.
Oh, I know.
I've been having a blast running them. Like not the past day or two, but before that, like especially with freshly leveled characters, it's perfect. You know,
Yeah.
because especially since you can queue for a dungeon at the same time and do all sorts of stuff, it's very very helpful, and a nice way to get extra badges too.
For me, I've always wished that they would, once you're at max level, allow you to camp out in the local inn and get reputation for hanging out there. I mean, people are going to see your face. You're going to buy from the inn. You're going to get drunk there that night. And the next day, that guy should go, "Oh, hey, I've seen you around. How about some extra rep today?"
Yes,
All right, fair
I would
enough.
take it.
That'd be
We
interesting.
would need a stat like charisma or something that would improve that.
Yeah.
I'd be all for that.
That would be too, and all rogues get extra charisma.
Maybe you can play your new sun lute at the at the bar or the tavern or whatever and impress the locals. That would work too.
And then we'll get dialogue wheels, and I can romance a Draenei, and it turns into Mass Effect,
Yes.
which I've been
Ultra
playing.
Knight female.
Yes. Well, I'd like to put the men out of my head because I dislike their models so much
Well, I think most people do too. I see very few male Draenei running around.
because they prance around like fairies. If you are a fairy, please do not write into the show. They said ideally they never want to see a 5 or 6 raid boss tier again, which is
Interesting.
Yeah, very,
This was Ghostcrawler, I believe, right?
I believe so. Yes.
So what does this mean?
This means
Yes, it was
shorter
Ghostcrawler.
tiers.
More
5 or 6 sounds like that's pretty short. Okay, look, I was trying to listen through that podcast and I got to a large discussion on the raid stuff. Now, can somebody specify for me, please? Does this mean they want more or less? I think.
I think they want less.
Do they?
Is that what they?
Or do they want more bosses in a tier?
Maybe I
like are they
misread.
saying like Firelands was too small?
That's a good question. And the other thing that throws me off about this is the current state of raiding in Miss, because we have 3 raids, but they're all kind of technically the same tier.
And they all have 6 bosses. Right,
Yeah.
no, we can safely assume these are within the same tier. There's sort of half tiers between them gear-wise, but I would not consider it to be a separate tier of rating.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I just find it so odd. So technically we have freaking, 18 bosses in our
but-
current raid tier?
Exactly, that's what they're saying. So my assumption is that they're saying that they don't want the scenario in Firelands where you only have 6 bosses for the entire raid tier. Right, we have 18 right now. Granted, it's split up into lots
Right.
of little bite-sized chunks, which I like.
3 raids, yeah.
But speaking of which, I did LFR last week on every single one. I did all of them. It ended up being 16 or 17 bosses or 18. Didn't get a single thing at all, not once. I think
sorry.
statistically that's incredibly improbable for that to even happen. But
Yeah. Well, and
it
now,
was just like
and now that
I
you
did them all on the same day too. It was exhausting.
Yeah, now that you mention it, I honestly don't know how they could even keep up with 5 or 6, or I don't know how they keep up with the current level of rating. Like the next tier of Pandaria rating could not come out and have 3 raids with 6 bosses each. Like, what would the story be for those 3 more raids? I don't think they have enough lore or enough things that need to happen.
I'm very confused about the statement. I don't think we should interpret too much into it because we really don't understand it.
Yeah, I think I may have honestly misread it, but
yeah.
Anyways, moving on. Please
Because
read
it's not a bad size for a dungeon.
Yeah. No. Anyways, write us in with your opinion this week in blizz@gmail.com. Patch 5.2 is going to take a look at what talents are very popular or very unpopular and try to bring them back in line. Overall, though, the new talent system is working out very well. Ideally, there should be at least 2 talent choices per tier that are good, if not 3. Well, I would hope all 3 would be viable.
Right, but
you
so-
get
so-
into PvP specific stuff and other
Right.
jazz like that.
Or you end up in a situation where one is clearly better for one spec and the other one is clearly better for the other spec. And as long as you have a choice between a few of them, like I can think of actually quite a few different things that I switch around from on a boss to boss basis of what's better, like what I personally find more interesting for a given boss. So I think they're doing an excellent job with this so far. I think Ghostcrawler also mentioned that they really wanted to stay away from making any sort of class changes in 5.1, which is why none of it was touched. But now coming up is they're going to go through a big review process and go through all of the talents and stuff and see what's working, what's not.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. It's funny. What was I playing the other day? Borderlands 2. Recently picked that up. I talked a little bit about it on Starcast, just that I'm enjoying it. I didn't get into the nitty-gritty. They have a very old-school Warcraft-like talent system. You have 3 trees with tons of nitty-gritty, improves your damage by 5%, and there's 4 tiers of it, and it goes up to a total of 20% damage increase.
And everything's really opaque, and it turns out an ability that sounds good is actually really bad.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, is like that. And it's funny now looking at, coming to the end of 2012 and looking at Blizzard as a whole, you look at things like WoW, what WoW's talent system is now, and Diablo's, and they have moved so far away from their previous beliefs of talent systems in games.
Sure, but also their gameplay hasn't changed much. So you have to change those other things.
That is a very good point.
Borderlands gets to get away with it. How cool, how neat. Ooh, 20% more damage. How interesting to see that applied in a first-person shooter.
True, but it was the same way in Borderlands 1.
Yeah, exactly. But these other sort of genres of games can get away with it. If you have an MMO and you're going to fire it up with a talent tree, that's just straight up lame these days.
That is a very good point. I just think it's interesting in retrospect, looking at how far they've departed from what used to be a solid building block.
I think it's tremendous, and I think they would not be nearly as successful as they are today if they didn't do this. The game has to evolve. The gaming community in general evolves. Our expectations from games evolve, and the fact that they're taking a game that's so old and relatively outdated, if you look at the underlying architecture, and they've kept it relevant and consistently so, and they've made it tremendous now, certainly with this expansion. It's a necessary component of that. If it stayed static, people would stop playing it after a few months, and that'd be that.
So Ben, you're saying it's amazing that they've kept such an old thing relevant. Are you saying that Blizzard is the U2 of game publishers?
Oh, God.
Or Aerosmith? I guess Aerosmith's not really relevant anymore.
I'm not sure U2 is either, but that's besides the point.
Well, at least U2's still making music.
Okay.
Not that I was ever a massive fan, but hey, give them props. Bono, man, those sunglasses, they do good stuff for him. The pet battle system, they said, worked out really well, and they feel like it feels like it's part of WoW rather than a tacked-on minigame, and that players have across the board given overwhelmingly positive feedback, which is really nice to hear. I'd say this is news in itself that Blizzard has been like, hey guys, we did something, and we got a ton of positive reinforcement.
What was it? Ghostcrawler, one of the interview questions for him was, so what do you think players are really happy with? And the first thing he just goes, players are happy with anything?
Well said.
They're just going to turn around and say, oh my God, he's so out of touch. Doesn't he know all our talents are terrible?
Yeah. No, Kyle, I have to ask, and I'm not sure the answer to this, so I may be putting you on the spot. You grew up, like me, a big Pokemon fan. Have you tried pet battles yet?
I have. Oh, wait, no. I watched my girlfriend pet battle. I never picked up the training.
That's what I've been pet battling by proxy. I keep finding myself in the situation where I'm sitting behind my roommate for half an hour, 45 minutes at a time, watching him pet battle.
Sounds like a super constructive use of your time.
Exactly, yeah. When you space out, it's just I don't want to write show notes right now. I don't want to reply on Twitter. I just want to watch my friend fight squirrels.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I attack those things because you can't role play in those instances. I mean, I guess I could pretend to be a pet battler, But other than that, it doesn't have any sort of ultimate overarching story advantage. I can't get an item that's going to advance my raid at all. So I just can't do it. I can't make a list on the side. I love doing that sort of thing too.
Yeah, that's a good point. I just saw an MMO champion today though. This awesome add-on that makes it look very, very much like Pokemon. So
I saw that as well.
I'm gonna be downloading that for damn sure. Interesting stat. They said that more than half the population of WoW has at least tried pet battles. I wonder what the carryover rate is. How many people tried and how many people have kind of stuck with it.
I wonder how many of these are active characters.
Meaning?
Oh, you would assume.
Right. Okay. So obviously they're using.
You think they're just pulling from trial accounts?
Oh no! But I mean, just sorry, that's a dumb question. Obviously, they have better, stats than this.
Gotcha.
I'm stupid. Never mind.
They said something that's being worked on for patch 5.2 or later is wild pets that are like a boss. When encountering them, they would be bigger than normal pets, and you would only fight them, but they would be much stronger than a normal pet. They said also that there may be an achievement for defeating all of the boss pets in the world similar to Glorious that rewards a unique pet. So.
Cool.
Yeah.
I guess I don't think any of us really pet battle.
I'm all for world pets and world bosses and world pet bosses.
I'm all for
awesome.
more content. The player base is so diverse that
you should run for president, Ben, because that's like saying I'm all for school.
Yeah.
And medicine. And candy.
I want great social programs and no taxes.
Get that man behind a desk.
That's right.
Because apparently he knows
I
magic.
will make this bureaucracy move. All right.
They said that questing in patch 5.2, lots of patch 5.2 talk, which excites me. They said questing in patch 5.2 will use more space so that players are not bumping into each other and constantly fighting over each other for mobs, kind of avoiding the fatty goat steak issue we were having at launch.
Fatty goat steaks. This was not the only problem with fatty goat steaks. The fact that our server had it about 9 days in a row wasn't helping.
And the fact that our server had about 9 goats that would drop 1 steak every other time you'd kill the pack of 9 goats that also you had to pull all 9 together, turning it into basically a raid boss that you had to fight by yourself.
And they would knock you back, and everything was on top of a cliff, and so it would frequently just knock you off the cliff.
Whereas my situation only made better by the new technology Blizzard developed, allowing things to zone. Because that means not only am I completely alone leveling in the low levels of Pandaria, but I'm completely alone by design. And when I walk into town and they say, "Oh, you're the hero we need," I say yes, and I'm the only damn one.
Kyle's just like, I'm gonna RP the shit out of this.
Hell yes.
That's wonderful. The increased reputation leveling speed after Avir was a good step towards making the reputations more alt-friendly, but they said it could still use some work, which excites me.
So I've personally experienced a lot of this recently, so I've been, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I believe you're the only one of us that is leveling or grinding rep on alts, because I honestly just have no interest in doing it.
Right, I'm looking to switch over my main, so it kind of makes sense.
Yes, I forgot
and
about
it is way easier. Good lord, this is a much bigger change than I initially thought, because a lot of things, let's take the Klaxi for example, right? There's so much of the initial rep before you even get to the point where you're doing stuff that is just normal quests that you do. And I'm going to be exalted with the Klaxi tomorrow, right? And I think I've been doing it for 4 or 5 days. It's really, really absurdly fast because it takes in, the increased XP takes into account all those initial quests too.
That's actually good to hear.
Yep. So, and the other thing is, over the past week or so, we've also had the Dark Moon Fair where you can, now get the 8% increased reputation buff, which also helps.
Yes, that I was utilizing that. As you know, Ben, I've started leveling my hunter over on the Horde server, and eventually I'll bring him over. But yeah, that friggin' Dark Moon buff came in handy.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? Yeah. But it works for reps as well as XP, which is fun.
Yes.
But yeah, so it's actually slightly more powerful than I anticipated because there's always those introductory quests. I know Abby was doing the Cloud Serpent rep on an alt, and she got extremely lucky after a server reset and found something like 12 of the Onyx eggs.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I was camping those things out like a crazy son of a gun.
This was a few days ago in the middle of the week, so it wasn't like, and it was a random server restart, so it was like nobody could be ready to camp or whatever.
Right.
And she just got extremely lucky, and she got from like nothing to Exalted in a day.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
Yep.
Although it honestly probably won't take me that
Oh,
long.
sorry. Abby's correcting me. She found 18 eggs.
18! Dear God, I think I found 4 in the entire rise to
Yeah,
Exalted.
I
on my
found
first
2,
game.
and I could only pick up one of them.
Oh yeah, I remember.
So bad.
Guys, here's a little view into Ben and I's relationship in WoW. I'm out there questing one day, and I get this whisper in all caps, "I found an egg, and I can't freaking pick it up." It was awesome.
Yep.
It was wonderful stuff.
I was miserable. and then somebody kind of came up, sort of stood looking at me, and then picked it up right in front of me, and then just flew away. The whole time I'm just furiously clicking on it.
Yeah. They said that they have noticed quite a bit of World PvP being brought back into World of Warcraft with the advent of patch 5.1 and its new questing area. That just makes my heart warm because I missed World PvP so much.
Granted, we're not on PvP servers, so that's probably not helping, but...
Well, it doesn't matter. There's still quests, I believe, that involve you being flagged, so it's going to lead to World PvP.
Actually, none of them do. None of them flag you. No, for a while their guards were aggroing on you, and that would flag you.
Huh.
But they fixed that. So the idea was to make a very PvE-friendly questing that would lead to World PvP.
Gotcha.
Right? A lot of the rewards and stuff sort of help that, and you're very much like, a lot of the quests are like in the other guy's base, so it's kind of hard to avoid them. And also, we're not quite seeing the effects of this because we're on a pretty skewed server population where we have a really heavy alliance bias.
Yeah, we do. They love their mustaches over there on Lightbringer.
Oh yeah, cheesy mustaches and weird sideburns.
Yeah. Talking a little about WoW esports, they said that one of the goals for WoW as an esport is to make it easier to watch, and they said part of this will be accomplished by making it easier for add-on authors to create nice tournament UIs. And this is something that is we're going to see coming to StarCraft very soon with Heart of the Swarm. So Blizzard kind of getting in on that. This is something, Kyle, you and I have seen in Dota 2, where you can have like custom banners with like the team logo on it in the game rendered in 3D. Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily think that's exactly what Blizzard is going, but it's something that we're seeing just in general with games that are played professionally.
I mean, why not? You could put whatever graphic you want into the game right now. So as a UI element, you can literally import whatever graphic you want.
Yeah.
So I can definitely see them making this easier for the spectating aspect of it. But I think it was Tom Chilton who did the PvP interview, and they were sort of saying that, listen, the esports aspects of WoW were sort of something that happened by accident. It was never something that was built from the ground up to be a highly watchable esport like StarCraft, and it will never achieve that.
Well,
Is
you're
basically what we're
also
saying.
in the past when the game first came out, you had very distinct races as well, and the two factions, Horde, Alliance. It was all about which one did you pick, and nowadays that's gone away because of all of our story progressions of having to continually team together, defeat the boss, and now with Pandaria, we kind of have this revitalization of the actual war going on. So things like this could be an early shot at progressing that popularity of the battling factions for a PvP or, tournament base.
Yeah. But, I mean, that's still... improving watchability is the number one thing, I think, when it really comes down to it. It doesn't really... while the lore aspect of it is cool, I don't think it would necessarily... It might introduce people to it more, and more people might try to watch it, but I don't think it will necessarily retain viewership because of something like that. I think in the end, it just has to be entertaining.
Yeah, but unless you're at the grand finals, you have to keep everyone around. And one way to do that is to make sure there's still a race or I'll root for them anyway because they're Horde sort of thing going on.
That's a good point, like we do with StarCraft. Like, go Terran. I don't know who you are, but I'm sick of watching Zerg win.
Right.
Like, they just kind of inherit, bias.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
It's like, who are the Yankees playing? I don't care. Go Yankees. Like,
I'm wondering if
or for the rest of the world, who are the Yankees playing? All right, go them. Go that team that's not the Yankees.
Well, and also just selling sponsors. I mean, putting them up on the banners, making your own icon of your team, a thing that people know and can franchise.
Exactly. Agreed.
It would be, you know what I would love to see is if like for the sort of, team icon or even the guild icons, which use the same technology. Like, it would be wonderful if they could, import artwork, but that would lead to a whole bunch of vandalism and all sorts of stuff too. So it'd be very complicated.
Yep.
Or maybe just a more complex editor of these things, kind of like the Diablo banners,
Yeah.
Something rather than just a really, really badly mirrored little texture. But the infrastructure that would have to be put into the game to support something like this would be tremendous.
Yeah, but oh dear God, the tabard design's ugly. That's something you just reminded me of. They're so awful. I never wear a guild tabard just because they're so ugly. It doesn't matter what the design is.
Even if I put a pink cupcake on it?
Even if you put a pink cupcake on it.
I can do that if you like.
Oh, that was
not rated Burning Crusade.
You already
Everyone
did
wore
that.
tabard.
You already did on our Horde guild. Rest in peace.
Yeah,
My hunter's still in that guild. Actually, I got on. I had my guild tabard on. It was a pink freaking cupcake. It's like, oh, I miss this guild. Kind of. Disciplined priests and monks will be buffed somewhat to bring them up to par. We should accept.
Wait, what?
Oh, they said.
Is this in PvP?
They're just talking. This was the PvP.
Yeah, okay.
Interview.
I was about to say, in PvE, monks probably don't
right.
need.
So yeah, they're going to be buffed to bring them up to par. They said we should expect to see those changes on the patch 5.2 PTR soon. The more exciting part of that is they're talking about the 5.2 being on the PTR soon, which makes me excited.
Yes, me too.
Yeah. Have we had any... We haven't really had much in the way of rumors or previews of where the story is going in 5.2, have we?
Nope, nothing. The podcast I was listening to with Greg Treat was one of the hosts asked them, could you does it involve trolls, confirm or deny? And he wouldn't say, but yeah, he didn't want to give away anything, so we haven't heard a peep out of them about what it's going to be about.
Patch 5.2.
But specifically, they're very excited about it, and one of the things they're super excited about is that they're, quote, making a very... The way he phrased it was, the raid that will be coming out will be sort of worthy of Ulduar, is the way he put it.
Oh, don't say that, because immediately it's going to come out and I'm going to judge it.
No, but I'm thinking. I think he's talking about in the way of the way like the mechanics were activated and that kind of thing, rather than.
All right.
Because they reintroduced a bit of that in Terrace of the Endless Spring. So there's at least one boss in there where if you kill, it's like a typical council fight, and if you kill them if you kill the bosses in a different order that are much harder, you get extra loot.
All right.
So they're starting to sort of slowly reintroduce that, and I would love to see more of that.
Every boss should have that. This stuff is like butter. No such thing as too much until you die. Moving on, they said the bonus rolls worked out well. The bonus roll has worked out well, other than the consolation loot, the fail bag, as we've come to calling it, that you get when you lose the roll. They said in the future that bag will have different rewards, such as bonus valor, more gold, gems, or rare chances at blue BOE gear, pets, or mounts, which is good. So
It should have rare chances at epics.
That's already does.
The
roll, if you win the roll.
No, I know
epic.
the roll does, but like a lower tier epic that doesn't have anything to do with the loot table of the boss.
So kind of like the trinkets we've been getting to drop off of almost everything we kill in Mogashon.
No, not quite like that. I'm thinking more like the sort of the epic you could get out of a scenario like loot bag.
Okay, so just a weird random world epic.
Yeah, it's kind of like a weird affix, like sort of relatively low, like first tier of LFR kind of quality item. It's something substantial you could actually use, because I mean, why would you want blues if you're already raiding? Like crappy blues. I don't understand.
Right. Yeah, well, they're BOE, so you could sell them. And
I guess. Yeah, okay. as long as they're BOE, I guess.
It is better than 28 gold and nothing else.
Right, why even put it in a bag?
Yeah, I don't know.
Just loot 28 gold, move on.
Just to make me sad. Anyway, this is a great change. Do it. They said in patch 5.2 that'll add some new architecture, geography, and a new story. A new raid is planned that will hopefully be similar in quality to Ulduar, like you just said. And there will also be more daily quests. More. Do them. Do them now. That's interesting. New geography and architecture.
Yes, I know.
Where are we going?
I don't know, but I would love to see.
I know. I can't wait. And then finally, patch 5.2 will bring more talent changes than patch 5.1, but they will mostly be number tweaks. Rogue talents were mentioned as something that needs to be looked at.
Okay, so back to 5.2 real quick. I am super excited about this because this looks like a completely new element that hasn't really been hinted at all, or it hasn't really been touched on. So I'm always a fan of sort of fresh content, not like... You know, they even talked about how, quote, I mean, Crash Run looks pretty different now than when it did a little while ago, right?
Yeah, it looks wildly different.
Right, but in reference to this, we wanted to show new geography. They said that we basically just took Crash Rang and added some stuff to it. This is going to be entirely new geography. So I'm really curious what they're going to do.
Yeah, that's a good point. Do you think it's going to have something to do with Garrosh and kind of his rise to the point where everyone wants to kill him?
Maybe I could definitely see there being another sort of side quest line that doesn't have anything to do with the overarching story, if that makes sense.
Maybe like pure Shah?
Sorry, what?
Like something that has to do with nothing but the Shah? And like
Yeah,
Shah architecture.
Or maybe introduce some old gods because the Shah and the old gods are sort of linked. Something like that. Maybe they'll have. I'm trying to think of where they would put this new geography. Like, are we talking about adding on more islands? Like there's always that.
It's possible they've done it in the past.
Right.
So I don't know. It's fun. Sure, it's fun as hell to speculate though. Maybe that's why they said it's closer to Ulduar because it is actually Titan themed.
Hold on. Now I've been slightly confused about this, but if you look at the Mists of Pandaria map, there's here, I'm going to send you guys a quick link just so you guys know what I'm talking about. If you look in the top left-hand corner.
Okay. Got it.
What do you see?
Or I had it and it went away. Top right corner, I see a big logo.
Top left.
Top left. Oh, I see an island that I can't get to.
Yes.
You.
So I'm thinking that.
That's a very good point.
I don't know. We've never gotten to visit the sea drakes or the cloud blowing on people. Could just be wrong.
But I mean, this is specifically baked into the map, right? This is not like new anything. This was clearly planned in advance. You just simply can't visit it right now, unless I'm totally out of the loop and people have been questing there forever, and I just skipped the big zone leveling.
Actually, now that I think about it, that might be one of the Shadowpan dailies.
No,
I think
because those are the smaller ones, the smaller green ones that are down the bottom.
Really, there's a really far island. That might be the farthest. I don't know. I would have to log in, and that would script the stream, and I'm not going to bother right now.
Yep.
Anyways, nonetheless, exciting.
No,
Kyle?
Yeah, that's a fine theory. What I'm hoping for, certainly, is to see some Burning Crusade, some Outland, and all its modern graphical glory. But that's not coming for a bit.
Yeah. Didn't they specifically say that it was delayed? The whole Black Temple thing?
Yes, that hasn't come out yet, has it?
No.
That's kind of a shame.
And it won't be coming out in 5.1 either.
You mean 2?
Sorry, 5.2.
Just about to say 5.1 is out.
Actually, I'm not sure about that, but it certainly didn't come out in 5.1 like they were initially talking about.
Right. But what did come out is new items on the black market auction house. This kind of flew under the radar. They didn't really make a big stink about it, but, well, people have been bidding on it now. First off, brand new item, the Sun Loot of the Phoenix King. It is an item level 483 epic DPS two-handed axe with an on-use that turns you into Signatius. Yes, the guitarist from the Elite Tauren Chieftain. This looks exactly like the Blood Elf guitar that Signatius, the Blood Elf guitarist for ETC, uses.
And it's badass.
It is really badass. I want this thing so bad. So if you're a fan of the show, you need to go there and buy it and mail it to Atomisk on Lightbringer US. And I might thank you on air. That's all I can offer because I do not have enough gold. Also, both the Plagued and the Rusted Proto Drake from Wrath of the Lich King have shown up on the black market auction house as well. And I believe the Rusted Proto Drake you can still get, but the Plague, this is the only way you can get it now.
Yeah, that seems right. What was Plague from? Was
Plague
that
was
Max
from
Undying or?
Yeah, no, wasn't Undying, I don't believe. Or I think it was. I think it was just all of the achievements from Nax. 25 man, I think.
All right.
If I remember correctly. Because that's what all the Drakes are. If you get all the achievements for the meta, then you get your Drake. But Nax was the only one they went back and was like, we're going to take this out.
Right.
So, very, very cool stuff. Damn, I want that axe. Anyways, that does it for World of Warcraft. Let's get into StarCraft. There's some big news this week. Beta balance number 8 dropped this past Thursday, actually just before StarCast. And man, we had to scramble to make heads or tails of that, didn't we, Kyle?
Yeah, and of course the servers were down for the next 12 hours, I believe, on my part anyway, so there was no way to test these things ahead of time. There's been so many features added in the background that the complete lists are rather daunting. Basic AI changed, all the usual bug fixes and things like that, but things like stats are now working, so if you've played enough 1v1 games, you can look at the stats, see what maps you actually have win rates on, or the sad part when you actually see what your lose rates are against certain races based on that, what race you should really be playing because you suck otherwise. Yeah.
That's a very, very good point.
So much. I mean, even things such as after the game's over, you can see the graphs, like, income rate and, how much you built and that sort of thing. Now there's things like upgrade spending. So over the course of the game, you can see, oh, that's why I lost. Clearly, over the course of the game, he continually upgraded, and I stopped about mid-game and died because of it.
That's awesome.
There's so many great tools in this game right now. The leveling feature has not been messed with, and nothing's really been added there, which is kind of a shame because with so much interesting things to look at after the game's over, it'd be nice if we actually got a prize worth getting.
Yeah, that was a very good point. Anyways, we're going to talk about some of the changes to the balance of the game itself. We're going to skip over a few things that are more boring, more number crunchy, just because there was a lot to cover here. And I recommend if you want to get the full scoop, definitely go over to StarCraft2.com and read it point for point. But let's start off with the Terran. Let's talk about the medevac, because in my opinion, I'm so excited for this change. I think it's one of the more interesting things. Partially because I just don't think any of us really saw it coming, and also because I tried it, and holy crap, this is fast. The medevac has a new ability called Emergency Thrusters, which is a speed boost that increases the movement speed and acceleration of the medevac to 4.25 for 8 seconds on a 20-second cooldown. 8 seconds is a long time to get a massive speed boost in this game.
Yeah.
Like, Kyle, you and I played some 2v2 because that's the other news this week. 2v2 is now live in the Heart of the Swarm beta, and I saved all of my medevacs and almost my entire bio army from a massive stalker ball that I should have lost everything to.
Yeah, and I got dropped multiple times this week, which hasn't happened really in months. Granted, with the new Queen buff and the fact that that's a rather older style of playing, it wasn't particularly effective, but still, I saw it. And they were able to get out sometimes.
Yeah, and
even when I had Mutalisk on the map too. So it's a fun patch.
What's the argument here? Basically that people are getting too good at defending and aren't being nearly as flustered by this sort of like multitasking, taxing your opponent sort of style of gameplay, so that they're sort of buffing it so that is more viable again.
Well, the cool thing about all this is now that we're a little past it being fresh, David Kim has kind of come out and talked about it. And his thoughts, and he said that he felt that back in the early days of Wings of Liberty, the multi-directional medevac drops, he said were really fun to watch. He really enjoyed those. So he said that since they aren't seeing much in the way of those kind of multi-pronged medevac harassments, that they kind of wanted to add something in that's fun but also useful to kind of promote that play again and make it viable again. In lieu of all of the changes that have happened and made multi-pronged medevac drops not viable.
Right.
There were some other changes made also. But yeah, this is really interesting. I like this change. It's more micro equals more skill in my book. So so it's just another thing for you to need to be on top of and be skilled with. Damn, the rain is loud at your house.
I'm sorry. Oh, it's really coming down now.
Yeah, it really is. Just mute yourself when you're not talking, I guess. I don't know what else to do. I can't hear myself think, oh, this is going to be the best podcast we ever put up. Anyway, the next up for the medevac is the I can't even pronounce this freaking thing. The Cadacious, I'm going to say the Bodacious reactor upgrade in the Starport Tech Lab.
Caduceus.
Caduceus. Ben, you sound like you know what that means.
I've just heard casters say it a lot, so that's all.
All right then. And what it does is it takes the health restored per second from 9 up to a total of 15, and the energy cost is reduced from 3 health per 1 energy to 5 health per 1 energy. And they said that was because of all of the new threats coming in Heart of the Swarm to bio play, that they really needed to do something to buff bio in late game in Heart of the Swarm. Pretty much.
And they wanted to buff bio in the first place because you have all these new viable options. So it's really hard to take any of these changes by themselves. It is such just a mad workings of so many different. I mean, the speed upgrade for the medevacs alone are a result of probably Reaper changes, or the result of certainly Mutalisk changes.
Yeah, agreed. And David Kim talks about it, a lot of that. You and I were kind of speculating in StarCast last week, while saying, like, this is probably because of that. And not saying we're 100% right or can read David Kim's mind, but he did a very similar explanation on a lot of points. But yeah, cool medevac changes. They're also more expensive now. They used to cost 100 or 100, and now they cost 150 and take a little longer to build.
And before we move out of Terran, I just got to say some of the cool stuff I saw this past week playing in the beta. One of the cooler things I saw was Time Warp dropped on a bio army. With all those medevacs and the speed upgrade, the speed, of course, isn't affected because it's a flying unit. But at any rate, you can still fly out of there as quick as you want. Pick them all up, fly away, not stuck in the Time Warp, get out of there.
Woo! Yep. Very cool.
Also, we're going to take a Zelnaga tower, put 1 Marine there, and then burrow a Widow Mine underneath him. Anything that comes to bother that tower.
I've been doing that since day one, since the Widow Mines were introduced. I was just like, doing this.
For the record, the Caduceus, some quick Googling has told me, is the sort of the winged staff with the snakes twisted around it that we associate with, like, medical symbols.
Ah, that makes sense.
Yep.
Gotcha. That's Ben's Google Fu Man striking again.
Yep. It's just when I hear stuff like that and I don't know, it bugs the crap out of me, and I have to like find out.
Gotcha. Reapers getting a speed upgrade to both their base speed and their upgraded speed. Widow Mine's having some changes. They no longer hit cloaked units because I quote, they said that seemed like a weird thing for only the Widow Mine to have. To be able to hit cloaked units with no detection, which I agree with. And then they've got a new upgrade called Drilling Claws, which requires a tech lab and an armory. But it decreases their barrow time from 3 to 2, and they said that was to kind of promote Widow Mine usage in late game, which I guess with their stats, they haven't been seeing a lot of. Let's talk about the Thor, one of the more interesting changes, I think. The 250mm strike cannons have been removed. We kind of talked about that the last few weeks, that this just isn't really used. We don't see a lot of use, if at all.
No, and with the new Raven change being to only a single target, if this wasn't being used on a Thor, well, what's the point of even having the Raven now?
Right, exactly. So now what the Thor can do is go all Transformer up in this hizzy. And it has 2 modes now. It has the high impact payload and the explosive payload, and it takes 4 seconds to shift between the two. What the difference is high impact payload mode is that the Thor switches to a different anti-aircraft gun that has 10 range and deals 24 flat damage. Gone is the bonus to light and the splash damage.
While in that mode.
While in that mode, right. But your standard mode is still the same Thor that we know and love.
Right. Yeah. So this is really cool because I guess it would be against armored units that you would be using this a lot more. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
Tempest, Broodlords, Void Rays are probably hopefully
Right.
going to get a lot more usage because there's some Void Ray changes coming up we're about to talk about.
yeah, no, against this sort of big Broodlord army is where I see this, because normally it's just like one Thor getting rapidly surrounded by Broodlings, and then it's quickly over after that. And he's sort of firing off at one of them, trying to kill like a single Broodlord if he's lucky.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
It was pretty pathetic. Those guns were giant, frankly, that they weren't
Yeah,
doing
you'd think he'd be better at that.
But
Yeah.
this week I actually noticed what a profound impact this actually had on my game, because naturally you're going to go Mutalist, you're going Zerg Air against Terran, and you fly in there with the Mutalist, and oh, they got a Thor. Well, I'm done with the Mutalist, time to go straight for the Broodlords. But because of this new high impact payload, the damage they continue to put out by massing these Thors completely murdered my Broodlords. Now having Thors is actually a full deterrent against staying air, and with the new Ultralisk buff. If you haven't messed around with the new Ultralisk, you're doing yourself an awesome... Well, you're deserving yourself by not doing something so awesome.
Yeah, I agreed. I am all for the new changes to the Ultra. But before we move on, let's talk Raven a little bit. The Seeker missile was a very hot topic last month now, and they're doing something about it. It can now fire from 10 range. When it fires, the missile comes out and it stays immobile in front of the Raven for a full 3 seconds while charging up. Then it rapidly moves and explodes at the target for 300 single target damage. And the targeted unit will light up red when it's targeted, so you know which unit it is. They said that if that targeted unit moves 13 range out of where the Seeker missile is, then the missile will fizzle. So it's an interesting, thing about it. So you can still kind of outrun it.
Right, but it would take good perception of the state of the battlefield, sort of.
Right, and it's 3 seconds in game, which, as most of us know, like the max speed for StarCraft, you're actually moving faster than standard time. Because StarCraft's just that awesome. Standard time is not enough. It's
Why
not good
would
enough.
we make those two the same, right?
Yeah, why? It was still to this day boggles my mind, but nonetheless, they said again this is very much a target for the new massive threats on the map, Broodlords, Thors, Ultralisk, and then they said, oh, well, also Colossus have kind of just always been a threat, so this is going to be good against Colossus as well. So interesting. I like this.
So
Yeah,
do you
I mean-
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, if this thing still had the splash damage, it would be ridiculously powerful.
Yes.
And the damage increase alone makes this thing wonderful. I mean, if there's not a Nidus with those darn swarm hosts, I mean, the few times I didn't babysit them with a nice escape route, Ravens do a fantastic job in murdering them all.
So do you think we can see a serious compositional change in like PvT, where instead of getting like a mess of Vikings, you're actually going for just like a handful of Ravens?
I'm seeing some more battle cruisers, certainly, because you're halfway there.
Oh yeah, I see it.
Yeah, and that's a direct result of the armory change too. That well, we haven't talked about it yet. It's basically now your vehicle and your air upgrades have been merged into one. You only have 2 upgrades to worry about at the armory, which is such a massive buff. It's ridiculous. I'm really curious if this is gonna make it to live game. But David Cam seems super excited about this because he's just like, I really hope this promotes new Terran air compositions. He said he wants to see Banshees and battlecruisers becoming viable in the late game for Terran players. Well,
I mean, think about it. Right now, if you look at like Sky Terran, it's like, how many Vikings can I put this and then throw in a couple of other units that can sort of hit ground?
Right.
Which is not honestly that fun or that creative, and it's sort of like giant clouds of Vikings flying around each other.
Yeah, and again, there's like not much micro involved. What can you do with a Viking? They don't really have any on-use abilities.
Right. They're there as a deterrent, or to establish like air dominance. If you have air dominance, you can go Sky Terran. Whereas if you don't, I mean, there's no way you can do it. Whereas this seems to allow for a greater variety and a sort of a more balanced composition, rather than just having to like dominate with sheer numbers.
Yeah, I agree. Hellbat had a minor change. The splash damage is being a little bit increased, and they said that was just to help against Zealots. They say it just wasn't as effective against Zealots as they had hoped. And that kind of wraps up the Terran changes.
Cool.
So
On the Protoss side of things, Mothership got some changes again. Recall now functions as it does with the Mothership core. Vortex now kills a single target. Vortex does not affect massive units. And Mothership core is no longer massive.
Yeah, we were kind of making fun of this on StarCast, Ben. Have you seen the new Vortex graphic?
I haven't.
It's pathetic. It's so
Really?
tiny.
That's a shame.
It's like a lawn pinwheel that like children would put out on their lawn or something.
I
Is
mean,
it
I want
cheaper?
this to be I'm not sure. I actually
that's a funny
haven't
question.
tried this out myself, being a Zerg player, and I've been way too excited with 2v2s and everything else to keep using my Swarm host. But I'm excited to see what this could look like with the actual animation going on, because right now it's a placeholder. They don't want to take all the energy making this ability look all pretty, not just a tiny, tiny little vortex of what it once was. I mean, what I'd love to see is kind of like no, and like ripped apart into pixels and like basically like desynthesized.
I want to
and
see them
completely
implode.
destroyed.
So does Vortex? Can you still does it still function the same as it did before, just on a smaller scale, or does it just simply kill a unit now?
It's a single target.
It's a single target, just
That's it.
execute a unit.
Good night.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's like snipe.
Yeah, kind of.
Yep, and
And it doesn't affect massive units, so it's like
Okay, but still a lot of casters and stuff you can use this on. Like this would not be.
right. I don't know. I keep going back to it. I think it was 2 weeks ago now, where Blizzard was quoted saying, they want to make motherships not useful in pro games.
Yeah, I wouldn't get hung up on that too much, because I can still definitely see them being part of the meta game in some form or other. Like I can see it being a logical progression if you have all the right upgrades and stuff. But that being said, like I can see this being, if it was substantially cheaper than whatever it was before, kind of used as a very strategic, can I snipe this Raven before he shoots his 300 damage missile at me, for instance?
That's a good point.
Like something in that range of things, or like if you can lay down a couple of them in one go.
Yeah. Well, I'll have to. Yeah, I guess.
Like if you have enough energy for a few feedbacks, like you can do, like you can chain them together. Like if you could do that sort of thing, it'd be kind of cool.
Yeah. I would just think recall would be so much more useful, but whatever the case, yeah, I have not played around with it enough to judge. So, moving on, Phoenix got a base range increase by 1. Woo!
Oh, actually, it's a huge change. It is.
Yeah, that's pretty
painfully-
substantial.
Yeah, but I just of the changes this week, it's not the one that's most exciting to talk about.
Sure,
It's not
and
very
this works
glamorous,
into the.
Sorry.
No problem. It works into the medevac, Mutalisk, like this whole Excel madness that Blizzard must have going on.
Yeah, and the upgrade is still in the game too, and it still grants +2 on top of the new base. So
Right.
with that upgrade, you're a damn long-range flying unit.
We're having Vikings that are really fast, that can kill light extremely fast,
And not stop moving in the process.
not stop moving in the process. There's nothing more disappointing than playing the campaign and realizing that your Phoenixes can't shoot on the move.
Oh, that's
Nope.
interesting.
I didn't know that.
It's like, oh, what? How you like? I'm trying to micro them. I'm like, am I doing this wrong? Like, what's? This is before the patch.
Oh, that's
Now we're
funny.
sitting in this weird place where we're envious of our multiplayer units.
I know that's not a very common.
Man, these upgrades are kind of creative, but they all suck. I'm gonna go.
I'd say that might be the only instance of that.
Yeah, I don't think there's many other cases where that's the case.
Nope. Dark Shrine is cheap as hell now. It's down 150 gas in total. It used to cost 100 250. Now it just costs 100 100. David Kim said that they want the Dark Shrine to feel like a more desirable tech option for players. By reducing the cost of the Dark Shrine, Dark Templar can be utilized in more late game scenarios.
So basically, here's what we want in PvP: double Dark Templar rush every game. hopefully you get that force field just right when they run into your base.
Yeah,
Park your army on your ramp, because good lord, really?
this scares the hell out of me. Buddha in the chat room, what do you think, man? He just says in all caps, so let's make it less than the Twilight Council.
It's pretty disgusting, because alone you've already got yourself a free DT to cast when this thing is done. But man, Protoss is going to quickly take the most annoying race to play against hold with the new Pulsar Beam and Warp.
Sorry. Can you clarify what you just said earlier? Because I haven't clearly not been keeping up with this as much as you guys have. Do you say there's a free DT you get now?
Oh, no, I'm just saying with taking off 150 gas off the building, when that thing is done. No, it doesn't it's not like a hero unit. Like, comes up, I'm the protector of the tower. I'm the free DT you get.
Yeah, I thought you make a Dark Shrine for 100, and a free DT pops out when it's done.
Yeah, they're just like larvae now. They just kind of spawn out of it, or just whatever DT.
And then it teleports right to your opponent's mineral line. You know,
exactly.
Yeah, okay.
That's great. God.
You know what DTs need? AoE.
Yeah. Buddha in the chat room, dude, I cannot wait to talk to you on StarCast on Thursday. Looking forward to that. Void Ray, Prismatic Beam, no longer charges up. It also no longer does passive plus massive damage, but they have a new ability called Prismatic Alignment, which increases the damage to armored units by 6 for 20 seconds with a 1-minute cooldown, and does not scale with upgrades. So David Kim had this to say. He said that they felt that giving players control over the Void Ray's charge ability will make this unit more appealing tech choice, and incentivize opponents to back away until the charge wears off. They said that they also aim for damage numbers that will help Void Rays beat most armored units for cost.
This is a boring change. Why? And it didn't have much effect this past week.
I think long term we'll see a substantial metagame change where Void Rays are used reactively instead of like oh shit, I hope that he doesn't see my proxy Stargate sort of strategy, right? I can see them actually being used in response to like Terran meching against Protoss or something like that, you know?
It's a needed stepping stone. You can't make the Void Ray too good right now because you moved the Tempest back to Fleet Beacon again. It's even later. You made a slight change to the AI with the carrier, so it is now usable as you can run away with the carrier after deploying your interceptors without them immediately returning. Mm-hmm. So with the upgraded Phoenix and with the Oracle, you can't... They can't make the Void Ray as awesome as it once was. It's never going to go back to those massing days.
No, I don't think that's necessarily the case, but I think it'll be used more as a response to something like suddenly there's a dozen ultras on the field, you know what I mean, that are really going to tear up some damage.
Yeah.
And you need to take care of that situation. Like, I can see it in a more reactive context rather than a sort of, you know...
a proxy starport scenario.
But you're talking to the Prismatic Alignment, the new ability that gives you bonus
damage.
Yeah,
specifically.
Yeah. But buildings are always armored.
Armored.
They're honored. We honor them too. Why not?
I know, but I mean, 6 seconds for 20 seconds. I mean,
Ben's saying the fact that you can now just kick it on command as opposed to having to worry about charging up, it is now a threat to armies beating on your front door.
I see what you're saying there. Okay. So it's, whereas the building, we might as well charge up against it because we're going to be killing it for a bit.
Right. So, and I also agree with Ben. I think the fact that now you're in control of it, I think that makes it more interesting.
Yeah, right. It takes more skill to use it properly as opposed to just, moving into their base and hoping that they're out of position.
Right.
Sure, and something like a Roach or many, many Overlords, something that you're never going to charge up against by the time you're done killing it, this would be an extremely powerful buff.
Right. There's nothing more disappointing than when you have like 3 Void Rays and then just like 10 Roaches walk into your base, getting shot the whole time by Void Rays, and then just kill everything before you kill them. And it's kind of like, oh, okay, I guess. Huh, yeah.
Yeah, that should no longer be the case.
You know what? Just take the Colossi and have an ability where it can attach 2 Void Rays when it's laser holes, and just use those for sweeping instead. It'll be awesome. We'll have Transformers. We'll have like Ultima Megatron. If you bought enough toys, you could eventually put together the Super Megatron or just Power Rangers.
Yeah. Well, people are specifically saying, Colossus Void Ray Deathball or whatever, but I think the fact that this Prismatic Alignment only works against armored units is really substantial. The that's going to take a lot of skill to take all those guys and make sure they're shooting at the right thing in your battle. I mean that's a big component of it.
Yeah, I agree. John, you want to take the Zerg?
I do, and I'm so happy to lead in with everyone's favorite unit, the Ultralisk, which I actually, with speed, forced through a choke up a ramp this week. And it was most enjoyable against siege tanks, no less.
What? So, what is this world I'm living in? It sounds wonderful.
Oh, it was wonderful. It was completely cost ineffective, and I should have never done it in the first place, but I could, and I did. I had a delightful time this week. Naturally, I still feel like you're going to get the range upgrade on the Ultralisk first, but the speed upgrade is now down to layer tech. It's a lot of money to invest just to go Ultralisk right now and get both of those upgrades together. That's 300 minerals, 300 gas. Not to mention what you'll need to support them, either massive roaches or swarm hosts, or making your way, just using them as a stepping stone, make your way up to hive tech. The Ultralisk stop-off is extremely expensive. Yeah, we'll see what happens.
I wonder if there'll be a bit of a nerfing price there.
It seems like one of those things that would... you could take huge advantage of catching your opponent's army out of position. Rather than in a straight-up battle necessarily. Like, if you can go in with these speed hydras and kill off a base really fast because they do so much DPS, and now they're actually fairly fast and can actually retreat. It becomes a more interesting thing rather than just sending in lings every time, right?
No, most certainly. And it's just such an iconic unit that the ability to even have those on the front line.
Yeah, because the flavor's cool and they should be cool. Damn it.
Yeah, exactly. But right now, a bonus of range for a heavy DPS unit with very low health is more beneficial for the same price as a 25% off creep speed, only off creep. So if you're diligent spreading your creep or you're using a Nidus Worm, you're already not taking advantage of that upgrade in the first place.
Right.
So we'll see what happens there. I feel like that's going to get a buff or removed at all.
If David Kim's explanation of this said anything other than, honestly, we meant it to be this way from the beginning. It was just a mix-up on our end. I have no interest in reading what he had to say.
We got the Mutalisk with a speed increase from 3.75 to a total of 4. Acceleration is exactly the same.
Right. Now, this is something David Kim talked about 2 weeks ago.
Is this acceleration is the same as it is in Wings right now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Because I know they were talking about changing the acceleration, so that's substantial.
Right. Yeah, they were talking about changing either or. They weren't sure which. So it looks like, at least for the time being, they're going with speed.
I like this much better than acceleration.
Yeah.
Yep, slightly faster, which is, I was saying something about how Mutalisk now can go fast because infestors will be able to catch them. Well, that ain't the case, because in Heart of the Swarm, that is now a projectile, which, if you know anything about record spinning or, Bill Nye the Science Guy, you know that the farther you are aiming out, the harder that damn thing is going to be to hit. And unless you are in a real close range, you have to aim where they're going to be, where they're about to be, where they were going to be. It's a messy thing for the infestor.
Leading your target.
Right, and I think this goes hand in hand with the acceleration not changing, right? I mean, the acceleration was way faster now, too. I mean, it would be almost impossible to fungal mutas.
Indeed.
So, the infestor change, it's dramatic, most certainly. I had no desire to mask them this past week. I enjoyed a Gentleman's 2 for about every, hit squad.
A Gentleman's 2.
So is that a group of infestors? So you have a business of broodlords and you have a gentleman's of infestors?
They've got monocles and they're sipping tea with top hats.
That's right. Very classy.
And emotionally, what this led to me doing was going, oh my god, here comes a fight. And I go, blah, 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 and shoot out all these orbs because I don't know what's going to hit what, if I'm going to get any fungal growths off. So you pretty well blow all your energy unspectacularly at this current point in the game. I'm sure with time, you get better. And actually, when they're forcing each other through a choke, not much has changed.
Yeah.
What's also really substantial is that the infested Terran changes. I mean, that's
huge. They no longer gain weapon and armor upgrades, and the egg health is down to 70.
You can actually kill the eggs. How about that?
What a concept.
It's still absorbing all that damage, but certainly you're not going to be massing these things anymore. One with the inability to continually aim the fungal growth, but also with the advent of all these hydras that are eventually going to be gracing our field, the infester nerf is huge. So with Swarm Host as well, I'm just pouring points into range attack that I never did before. And now...
That's a good point. So in a ZVZ context, you mean?
Oh, all over the place.
Right.
Just the ranged upgrade has gotten a huge buff, having one unit that was never really used, and one being an incredible unit that's now new, taking advantage of that.
So with all this, and then the Ultralisk, massive, kind of damage buff. They went from 15 plus 20 versus armor to a flat 35 damage against everything. I know you haven't had much time with the Kyle, but I mean, we've been playing Heart of Swarm for a while now. Are you happy with the direction of Zerg? It seems like it's changed so much. Is it exciting changes?
I'm really happy with the Ultralisk change. The damage on it is incredible.
It's kind of insane.
I mean, you don't have... It's like Zealots. You have 2 arms doing 1 attack each. So that's 70 flat damage. These things are destroying through armies. If you can get in the range, if they're not going air. I mean, air is pretty much the... If there was a subtext, if there was a highlight line on the box, it would say, Heart of the Swarm now with more air.
Yeah.
And if you looked at the little unit information tab, it would probably say counter air for the Ultralisk.
And then you flip over the back and it would say like new level system, spend your XP getting new Zergling dances.
Yes.
I love that.
New Zergling dance studio.
How do you feel about David Kim's explanation for Burrow Charge being removed, Kyle? He said it was cut because they believed it's better for the Ultralisk to be an all-around powerful ground threat rather than a teleporting anti-armor unit.
I think it got silly, frankly. Ultralisk popcorn was one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. Because inevitably you would have about 4 of these guys, or you'd have about 6, or whatever the situation may be, and one would get there first, and then they would all just kind of start popping up and down. And it looked stupid. It was ruining their own attacks. Granted, I still wish there was some sort of way, or like the Hydralisk would just get the heck out the way, because it's a damn Ultralisk. These things are so huge. Back at BlizzCon, forever ago it seems now, they were saying they were going to decrease the size of them. I love them being big. I certainly want them huge when I get my new Heart of the Swarm skin, with them crackling with lightning. But these, you can't fit 2 up a ramp.
I would love... like them just crushing their own units. Like if an Ultralisk steps on a Zergling, that's the end of that Zergling.
Sure.
Just from a flavor context, like I love the notion that it does not care what's in the way, right?
Right, and I'm cool with that. Then let me put them like Olifant style, like up on the Ultralisk. My Hydra hanging off. And I will allow like Raynor in a cutscene to like ride up the Ultralisk and like cut the bands and all the Hydras fall off, and then the Tychus down there goes, that still only counts as 1.
Yes. That's the most freaking amazing shit I've ever heard on this show. Oh, thank you, Kyle.
You're welcome.
So that, ladies and gentlemen, we'll conclude our chatter about the balance updates. Yeah, that was the best bookend you could possibly put on that. AI control features, guys.
Yeah,
you've seen these. We can now tell our AI to do certain builds: attack, defend, scout, detect, expand. You can tell them to do like early rushes, economic builds. I tested that a little bit this week. I do find it interesting. You can still only put them up to medium difficulty, though. I want to see this playing out at like the hardest difficulty.
Yes. Yep. But potentially a cool precedent.
Yeah.
And a lot of people look to these things without actually doing any research into it. People think, I have to play the computer first, then I need to advance from easy to medium and go there, and I need to complete all the challenges, which right now, with Wings of Liberty, the challenges, yes, may teach you how to play the game, but certainly playing the computer, getting all the way up to hardest, isn't going to give you an idea of what a real player can do. For one, you're going to learn how to scout, and you're going to scout all the wrong things because you're going to see like a spawning pool and like 10 drones, and they're going to have a huge army.
Yeah.
And you're also, if you do it more than once, you'll quickly learn that Terran AI on very hard will push you with, like 3 Marauders and 6 Marines at the 7-minute mark, and they will do it every time and try and bust up your ramp, and without fail, like exactly on the dot. The only differential is map size for like when they arrive. And it does the same thing every time. At least that's how it felt to me. It's kind of useless. But I like the notion that you can also sort of, kind of crank up the difficulty and then select a certain type of build and go, how does this opening fare against that style of play? Especially at lower levels where, that's more likely to be of the same skill level. Obviously, it's not going to help the pros very much.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I would have loved to have been able to, test my mettle against computer timing attacks when I was first learning how to play this game. It would have been great.
Right, but the thing is, the way the metagame changes, too, is also what defines timing attacks, for instance, right?
That's a good point. Well,
so certain styles of gameplay will only be open to certain timings, for instance.
Yeah.
I'm excited about this technology just by itself, that this is being done, that they can put this much in, that you can command the enemy AI to do certain things. I'm hoping that at one point they will sell simulators in the Blizzard store that are of popular pro players.
Oh, that'd be cool.
So you have like the MMA profile, load him up, play, use all the builds he did, and like when it wins, it said, "You lost to MMA, winner of blah blah blah, using this build."
It's like celebrity sex dolls, but not as creepy.
I don't know. When you put it that way, probably just as creepy.
Yeah, that's great. Can I upload a hero module and at the end when he beats me, will he still not know what to do with the champagne?
Yes. And you can even get an Idra bot that insults you the whole time.
Apologize for playing that race.
Do I get to keep his key? Do I get to keep his key off of his keyboard if I beat him?
But pro tip: if you use a bunch of hallucinated void rays, you're bound to win.
Yeah,
it'll just leave.
God, I haven't heard that reference in a long time.
Speaking of hallucinations, that never got rebutted, never went away, and no one really cares.
What?
The hallucination change that they didn't have to be upgraded for Heart of the Swarm.
Oh, right.
Yeah, that's a good point. Everyone's kind of just like, yeah, including myself, who was not happy about it at the time.
I want to see something like a few months in where all of a sudden in the GSL, some player like in Code A pulls this out and does something incredible with like hallucinations super early on. And it's one of these really, with all the huge changes, it's like a really small one.
Yeah. During an interview with PC Games N at IPL 5, Mike Morhaime rebuffed questions about StarCraft 2 moving to a free-to-play model, including saying that the math just isn't there. So I just wanted to put this in here because there's been a lot of chatter. It's been a hot topic recently about the StarCraft 2 going free-to-play. Doesn't sound like anyone at Blizzard gives a flying crap.
Why would they?
I'm not saying they should. I'm against free-to-play also.
Right, but I don't understand why this is even remotely a point of discussion. I mean,
League of Legends. Oh,
yeah, but think about all the competitors.
Well, there technically are no RTS competitors.
Exactly. I mean, they're singularly dominant. There's no question about it. There's no serious RTS player out there right now who's not bought his own copy of StarCraft.
Right, but Ben, you're missing the point. And I'm going to close up for this. The StarCraft subreddit doesn't care about their game being good. They just want more people watching their game than the other game.
Jeez.
That's all they want.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, and in all fairness, somebody in the chat brings up a good point, which is basically it is free to play. You're not paying for any of the server stuff, which is probably massively expensive to run. You're just paying, the initial investment.
If you can't fork out the $40 or whatever it is, or like the $20 every time it's on sale, which is like every other damn weekend, then
right. And seriously, it's a tremendous seller. I don't understand why
Yeah,
this is an
it's
argument.
it's sold.
You know what?
buku.
Let's put microtransactions in there, and if you pay a lot of money, maybe you'll get access to the DT because otherwise you won't have it.
Yeah, just because it works for one game doesn't mean it has to work for all games.
Right. Especially not a game like this.
Yeah. That being said, I am glad Dota 2 is free to play because I'm loving the crap out of it and I haven't paid a cent.
Right, but it's a totally different style of gameplay.
Yeah, agreed. Speaking of Champagne and Hero, Liquid Hero takes NASL Season 4. So, big congrats to him. That is awesome. I have not caught the finals yet.
Cool. Me neither.
Yeah, and it was funny. There was also a big thing today saying that it was confirmed that there'll be a Season 5 and 6 of NASL, which I was just like, I kind of was expecting that already to be true. Yeah. So, there's that. Go check that out. We'll be talking a lot more about the NASL, and I'm sure we'll be backtracking to the IPL for obvious reasons on StarCast this week with Buddha. So, tune in for that. Let's talk a little Diablo. Alright, let's file this under rumor. Strict, deep, dark, big, bold print rumor. Blizzard registered a new domain called Project Blackstone, which, of course, made all the internet abuzz with, oh my god, it must be their new MMO! Go, 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 go! And then the rest of us saying, well, that honestly sounds a little closer to Diablo. Or my personal belief, and this is one I truly believe, I think it is a sequel to Blackthorn.
Ooh, hello. I would love that. That'd be great.
Yeah. But I thought it's slightly interesting in the fact that it's called Project Blackstone.
I know.
Like, that's the name of the domain.
Is this like the Diablo 3 mobile app? Like, it's not the name of a game. It doesn't feel like.
Yeah, and I mean, it would make sense, you know, Blackstone, okay, that sounds like it could be something for Diablo 3, but, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think they've ever bought domains that were specific to the name of expansions. Like heartoftheswarm.com, go to it. It goes nowhere. It's not a website. So I find that odd. And also that it would be Project Blackstone.
Yeah, Project Blackstone, like, it is kind of a cool name for a made-for-TV movie from the 90s, you know? Like, this is not the pinnacle of their marketing. Right? I mean, if they're this is not very hip and with it. If they're gonna call their brand new intellectual property Project Blackstone, I'm gonna be super disappointed.
True. I mean, at the same time, it's like it's a freaking name. If the game is good, then who cares?
Yeah,
right, but the thing is, like, they're very good at naming their property. They're very good at marketing their properties, making them very cool. This is not that. This is not in sort of. This doesn't fit the flavor of what the gaming community has sort of come to expect. This feels antiquated.
All right, Kyle, you're quiet.
I mean, I'd like to believe it's the new Diablo expansion. We had a black soulstone fall to Earth, and then we all just took the camera and pointed at Tyrael, who said, I am important now. And then it ended.
Yes.
And, like, he was up where Imperius was standing. I mean, isn't Imperius pissed? I mean, he was standing there. Or was he at the ceremony? Did he not go? Is he hiding under Pride Rock, secretly plotting his demise by a herd of antelope?
Belial, what's going on? Pouncing lessons.
What I could see, because Project, like, also, like, they would never, I don't think they would call an expansion Project Blackstone. The vernacular is too modern for something like Diablo. You know what I mean? It doesn't fit the flavor. It's not, like, Project is a very sort of modern term from that sort of flavor perspective. Right. But I could definitely see this being some sort of community interaction project that is related to Diablo. So, like, something that requires a large amount of community sort of, like, the community does stuff together, or it's something related to that. Like, I can see that.
Like what they were doing with Diablo 3 up to launch. You go to the website and do trivia and, like, share stuff on Facebook, and they unlocked
sort of
art
like that.
and videos and music.
but on a much larger scale is kind of what I'm thinking.
Right.
I guess I'm missing Ural's inside knowledge on this. So by registering a domain, it's not the website they're going to sell this from. It is the what? What does this mean?
Just a domain. Like thisweekinblizz.com. I bought that domain.
They own
registered.
www.projectblackstone.com now. That's the only thing that means is that.
So why would they buy that if they're not going to use it, or if it doesn't mean anything?
Right. Well, obviously it means something. Whether they'll use it or not is a different question. I know it's really, really cheap. Like it's a minimal investment for a company to register a domain, let's say, right? So frequently what happens is that a company who wants to sort of protect their sort of intellectual property will buy up domains around something like this, just so they have them, so they don't need to worry about somebody else getting them and conflating their identities or whatever it may be. Like it's not like, even if there's the vaguest sort of suspicion that maybe one day they'll do something with this, might as well pick it up. Like there's no reason not to.
Right, this is why I own GarrettWeinzerl.xxx, because as sexy as I am, I don't want other people out there making Garrett Weinzerl porn.
Yep. I smell a sort of
Spin-off show?
spin-off show, maybe some sort of camming for you in the future.
Welcome back to This Week in Booty. I don't know. That's the best I can come up with.
So you got that HD webcam, right?
Yeah, that's all I got. Yeah. Ooh. No. So. Yeah, like I said, file under rumor. It'd be interesting. Ben, I'd like your take on it. That's one of the only thing I haven't heard.
What
is your kind of prediction that it's?
Yeah, well, what are those games
community-based
that are like? Do you know what I'm talking about? They're the sort of games where you like interact on multiple different levels with. I think Halo had one at one point.
Oh yes, the I Heart Bees or something.
Yeah, I Heart Bees, like kind of like that. You know what I mean? Where there's a whole bunch of different media avenues for this game to sort of take place, and there's a lot of sort of exploration on the part of the community. You know what I mean? Like, there's been a lot of ones where they kind of have to like hack the website to figure out like what's going on inside of it, and maybe one thing leads to another. Maybe maybe this is related to the new identity that comes out, let's say, right, or the new intellectual property that comes out. Mm-hmm. But it's actually a thing that's in the game. Right, so maybe let's say it's a sci-fi thing. Maybe Project Blackstone is something that happens in the game, and this is the website for it. Let's say, or something like that.
Oh
like
yeah,
that's kind of like the Umbrella Corporation website. You know what I mean? Like it's not.
Right. Yeah. And there's what was that one MMO that recently came out that did this?
Because this has sort of secret government project written all over it, from a storytelling perspective.
Yeah. Agreed. So I don't know, Kyle. You still hell bent on this being Diablo expansion related?
Yes, I am.
It still totally could be, but it could be something like that related to Diablo. Like I don't know.
Yeah,
it could still be a project. Like I mean, I don't know. All the demons are trapped inside it. Someone mortal has to put together a project, get together his base. Put together, sell to investors, Project Blackstone. All right, I know it's ambitious, but if we can get the money behind it, I think we can really unleash some demons and cause some hell.
This is a really interesting startup.
I would really just
you
prefer...
think now that you've sundered the Burning Hells, you're actually going to be one of them, and you're trying to get it back on its feet?
Well, naturally, it's an expansion, not a sequel. So we're still going to play the same hero. We're just going to be following the company that unleashes these.
Oh, I see.
So the plot of Mass Effect 2 in Diablo.
Well, it'll be more like Diablo 2 following the Dark Wanderer, except for it's more like we're following the Dark board meeting through several different conventions.
Diablo 2 plus Dilbert.
Yeah, just like that.
This has fallen so far, so we're going to wrap up today's show.
There's Belial. He's a real quirky boss.
We're going to wrap up tonight's show with an email from JT. Who says, "Hey, This Week in Blizz. So, State of the Game has their own drinking game, and I thought it was high time that This Week in Blizz make one." And he says this is his contributions, his rules for the This Week in Blizz drinking game that he would like us to do for our end of the year episode.
Oh, God.
We may or may not do this next week, just so you guys know. I'm still mulling it over in my head. Drink every time Kyle talks about lore. Garrett hates on BWC. Well, it did suck, but I'm over it. I haven't been talking about it since. Like it was god awful.
It'll take some work to bring that back around.
Yeah. Drink every time Kyle brings up a completely unrelated subject in the middle of an in-depth conversation.
Those are known examples, sir.
Right. And then it turns into its own thing. Drink every time Garrett talks about MKP. Drink every time Kyle talks about DRG. Garrett whines about Zerg. All right, fair enough. Ben talks about some kind of statistic that only the hardest of hardcore theory crafters would enjoy. Drink every time Ben describes anything as tremendous. I love that one. Drink every time Ben accidentally cuts someone off. Drink if there's nothing new to say about Diablo 3. And finally, anytime Garrett says freaking, and he says, and I quote, this one should lead to at least 10 alcohol poisonings. All right. Touche, JT from Chicago.
You guys are going to die if you play this game.
What are you talking about? You're playing with me, Ben.
Do I have to be the one to drink if I cut somebody off?
Yes.
Okay.
Because the thing is, you won't notice, and then Kyle and I will just be like, dude, drink! And then we'll all...
I notice every time.
Yeah. Okay. He said, I'm sure there's more, but I figured these are good starters. Love the show, guys, and keep up the good work. So, I don't know. I guess, because next week will be our last show of 2012. I'm gonna be gone for Christmas and all that jazz. So we're gonna take off a week from both StarCast and This Week in Blizz. So, yeah, guys, get some beers, get some eggnog and some rum, and we'll... I guess we'll do a drinking game while we try and report on the Blizzard news next Monday. How's that sound?
Great.
Kyle's like, I hate you guys. And if you would like to add more rules or suggest rules, you could send those emails to thisweekinbliss@gmail.com. That does it for today's show. You can check us out over on amove.tv. That is the production house, as it were. You can see more about This Week in Blizz at thisweekinblizz.com. You can email us. We just told you, but we'll tell you again, thisweekinblizz@gmail.com. And please tune in live every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern over at twitch.tv/amovetv for our live show. Follow us on Twitter at This Week in Blizz. You can follow me at Garrett Art. You can follow Kyle at Kyle Ferguson. And you can follow Mr. Benzweifel at Pixel Garbage. Join us in WoW. We have a guild on Lightbringer US. We're playing Alliance side. You can check it out. You can apply to the guild at versustheworldguild.com. That's VStheworldguild.com. And you can find Kyle and I both over on StarCast, the StarCraft podcast. Make sure you tune in this week. We're going to have our friend of the show, Buddha, on, who just got the cast IPL. Lucky son of a gun. Can't wait to talk his ear off. And what was I going to say? Oh, tune in this Wednesday at 10 o'clock Eastern. I try to do all the times in Eastern. Anyway, there'll be a master tournament being put on by Artcraft Gaming, and SC2 Quote of the Day has donated a few of their shirts as prizes. So if you're a Masters League, go sign up. There's links to it, I believe, on the starcast.com/forum and all that jazz. So tune into that. Kyle, where can people find you?
You can find me over at Biggest Fan Podcast, which streams on this very stream, twitch.tv/amovetv at 7 p.m. on Wednesdays. So basically where your pre-show right up until the Artcraft Gaming thing. I think they go a little bit, about an hour later after we finish. But this week, we all know who's coming to town. He knows if you've been naughty and he knows if you've been nice. It's Santa Week on Biggest Fan, and I'm super excited to get into the nitty-gritty lore and Coca-Cola bull that became Santa.
But I love the Coca-Cola illustrations.
Oh, of course, and that's how Santa looks these days. But he looked quite different about 50 years ago.
I'm just curious. Are you guys going to reference the movie Rise of the Guardians at all for the scary tattooed Russian Santa?
Oh, I didn't know about this one. Wasn't that the movie with the owls?
No. Oh,
Rise of the Guardians, Owls of Gelhoot, or whatever.
No. That was just called Guardians. Rise of the Guardians is the new DreamWorks movie that just came out.
Oh.
Everyone says that. Maybe that's why it's not doing as well, because everyone thinks it's that terrible owl film. I don't know. Anyways, I was just curious if you guys had seen that. So, very cool. So, that'll be this Wednesday, huh?
Yep, this Wednesday. Also on Tuesdays, you can always find me streaming here at 6:30 Eastern Time. Just streaming whatever I want. I haven't decided yet. I think I might play some XCOM or maybe some Majora's Mask. It's my stream, so I get to decide up to the minute.
Oh, Majora's Mask. Oh, that's my vote. Very cool. Before we leave, please go check out our sponsors, doghousesystems.com and tweakedaudio.com. Our code is TWIB, TWIB. Get you double memory in your next Doghouse Systems gaming rig. Maybe I keep telling you about it. I love mine. So why aren't you listening to me? Go right now. I'm going to guilt you into buying one of the rigs. That's what I'm doing this week. No. Seriously, they are very very freaking awesome rigs. Hey, I would have had to drink just then because I said freaking. Yeah. Awesome. I hope they don't make us drink every time we. Yeah.
It's a twofer.
Kyle, quick, go off topic.
Oh.
Doghouse Systems, you know what it reminds me of? That reminds me of the time I fell down a hole in New Mexico. I was there for 3 days and a clown saved me.
Yeah, that happened. Never fell down a hole in New Mexico, though. I did go to Carlsbad, and I was very afraid of aliens because it's right next to Roswell, New Mexico.
Ooh, that's awesome.
It's legit.
That's when. Oh yeah, I totally was down there right after X-Files was really big at the time. So I was just afraid of that shaft of light coming through my window and like seeing my sister like picked up and hovered out. And it's really lame if you look back and watch those, but that's what scared the crap out of me.
Dude, you go back and watch some of the Are You Afraid of the Darks? A few of those scared the pants off me, and they're hilarious now.
Oh yeah.
Actually, the X-Files holds up remarkably well for a lot of them.
Good to know. I've actually never watched a single episode.
You've never watched an episode of X-Files?
Nope.
You are culturally stunted to an extent that amazes me. How have you never...
Can I finish the sponsor?
Did you grow up without a TV or something? Like
no, I just never got into it. When it started,
no, but I mean accidentally. I'm sure.
No, never did.
Jeez.
I don't know what to tell you. So
okay.
There's that. But if you're like me and you want to continue not watching the X-Files but play awesome games on your PC, go check out doghousesystems.com. Our same code, TWIB, TWIB, that gets you 30% off and free shipping on your entire order of earbuds from tweakedaudio.com. And we all, except Ben, because he still hasn't received his, on account of them being shipped to me and me forgetting to give them to him, we all love our Tweaked Audio earbuds.
They're probably great. I wouldn't know.
I'm just going to wrap them up and gift them to you, Ben, since it's Christmas now. Hopefully you'll forget by the time we see each other, hopefully this weekend. So there's that. So go check them out, tweakedaudio.com, doghousesystems.com. We thank them for their support. And I believe they're also, yes, they are. They're supporting the Artcraft Gaming Tournament this Wednesday, so go check that out. And it's just awesome to have these sponsors. So very cool stuff. Tune in next week for episode 37 and the final episode of This Week in Blizz for 2012. We will see you guys then, and it'll be an interesting episode. Good night, everyone.
Take care.
Good night.